Hey guys, my name is Deb Marnie and I'm from Aussie Maille. Welcome to our chain mail tutorial channel. Hey guys, a big hi, hello, welcome, how are you? I'm so pleased to see you today. Thanks for popping in and spending some time with me. So today we've got another redo of an old video. Again, this was a Facebook Live session that we did back in the 11th of March 2017, so a few years ago now. Things back there still were a bit dodgy and the compression and everything's not nice. So we're going through, we're fixing some of these up for you, so it's a better viewing experience for you. So the weave we're going to be doing today is Cylon, which is a half Persian 3-in-1 variant. All right guys, let's get straight into it. Okay guys, so I've got some sample pieces of Cylon made up for you. So coming up here on the side will be the ring sizes that I used to make up these pieces. They'll also be listed down in the description section below the video, but to run through them quickly for you. This one over here is our 14 gauge AWG version, 1.6mm diameter wire. Now the large rings, the silver ones, those are 10mm ID, and the coloured rings on the middle, they're 1/4 of an inch or 6.35mm. The next one here is our 16 gauge AWG version, 1.2mm diameter wire. The large rings, the silver ones, are 7.5mm ID, and the ones in the middle are 3/16 of an inch or 4.76mm. The next one is 18 gauge AWG 1mm diameter wire. The ring ID for the large outside rings are 6.25mm, and the coloured ones on the inside are 5/32 of an inch or 3.97mm ID. And lastly, the little version is 20 gauge AWG 0.8mm diameter wire. The large silver rings are 5mm ID, and the smaller rings on the inside are 1/8 of an inch or 3.18mm. So just to give you a quick look at the weave, the basis of this weave is half Persian 3-in-1. So you can see that the silver rings form the half Persian section of this weave, and then the coloured rings are used to join that all up. So it's actually I like it, it's quite a striking weave. You could certainly wear it either way, whichever you want, but this is the way that the weave has been designed to be worn. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to create the half Persian 3-in-1 section first. So we'll be working with the larger rings. Now I'm working with 16 gauge today to demonstrate this. So with your larger rings, you'll want to have approximately half of those pre-closed, and the rest will open up as we go along. So once you've got about half of your rings pre-closed, take up 3 of those rings and we're going to put them onto a twist tie. Now the beginning of this weave is very unstable, and I just find the use of a twist tie helps hold those rings in place. So feed 3 of your pre-closed rings onto your twist tie and layer them so that they're slightly offset from each other with rings number 1, 2 and 3 like this. So our third ring is our bottom ring, and it's laying off to the right, okay? So twist that in place. Now with Persians, we usually work with through the eyes and around the eyes quite often. And for those that aren't aware, an eye is where 2 rings overlap. So looking at our first 2 rings here, you can see that this section here in the middle where they overlap, that's what we are calling an eye. And we either usually go through that eye or we go around that eye. So our first step, taking out another one of our open large rings, is we're going to go through the eye that's formed by rings 1 and 2. So that just means you go straight through the center of those 2 rings, just like that. We want to close that ring up, and then we just want to lay that to our left. Okay. Our next ring And this is the first ring that is fully in weave. We want to come down through the back of our weave. We want to pick up rings 1 and 2, and then we want to swing that around and pick up that third ring while sitting on top of the ring that we just placed. Okay, so I'll show you that again. Rings 1, 2, and 3. We're going to come down through the back of rings 2 and 3. Okay, so that we've picked up both of those rings. So we've gone through the eye of rings 2 and 3. We're going to swing that around so we feed it through rings 1, which effectively means we've gone around that eye that's formed by rings 1 and 2. And we're going to make sure that we've stacked that on top of the ring that we put in previously, and then we'll close that up. So that's the first ring that is fully in place in our weave. So half Persian 3 in 1 means that your single ring, your open ring, goes through 3 of your closed rings, okay? So next, what we're going to do is we're going to take up an open ring, but first we're going to pop on one of our pre-closed rings. So that becomes ring number 1. So that's down through ring 1, and then we're going to put it through our last ring here, through the back of that as well. That's ring 2. We're going to swing that around, and we're going to bring it up through the front of ring number 3, while keeping on top of the ring that we just placed previously. So you can see there that that large ring goes through 3 rings only. 3 of our large rings. You can see them stacked up there, 1, 2, and 3. So that's what we're looking for. We want to make sure that our open ring has picked up only 3 rings. Once we've done that, we're going to close that off, and our work should look like this. Okay, so we've got this loose ring hanging here. We're going to, and our other rings that we're adding, you can see they're all stacking up on top of each other, and our pre-closed rings here are all stacking up behind each other. Okay, so we're going to take up another one of our opened rings. We're going to pop on another pre-closed ring. So that's down through ring 1. We're going to come through the back of our loose ring. That's ring 2, and then we're going to come up through the front of the last ring in our weave there. Okay, so, well, not our last ring, our next ring, I should say, because we've just gone through our last ring here, and we're going to swing it around, going through the front of the next ring in the weave, making sure, again, that we're coming out on top of the ring that we placed previously. Okay, so again, you can see that ring going through 3, and only 3 rings. So once we're sure of that, we close that up. And that is basically half Persian 3 in 1 left leaning. So I'll show you again. We pop on one of our pre-closed rings. That becomes ring number 1 that we've gone down through the back of. We go to this loose ring from our previous step. We go through the back of that. That becomes ring number 2 that we've gone down through. We now want to twist our ring and come up through ring number 3, which is the next large ring there in our weave. Our new ring is going through only 3 rings, which is great. And we close that off. Now, I just want to make the comment that these size rings are a little bit larger than you would normally use for half Persian 3 in 1, or what is considered ideal for half Persian 3 in 1. So things can look a bit messy, so just take time with them. So by this stage, our weave is, reasonably stable. It's a little bit less stable than it would be if we'd been using the proper sizes. So what I like to do now is I like to remove that twist tie, and I'm going to put it through my first 2 rings. Okay, just to help keep the weave in place. All right. So our work now looks like this. And we keep creating this for the length that we require our bracelet to be. So just to show you again for a couple more rings, open up a new ring, pop on one of our pre-closed rings. So that's down through ring 1. we go to the loose ring here, our last ring, we go through the back of that. That's ring number 2. So we're down through 2. Now we want to go up through 1. So we give it a little twist and we bring it through the front of the next ring in our weave, making sure we sit on top of the previous ring, and we close. So you can see it's a little messy there. So just take care every time to go back and make sure it is all sitting properly before you move on. As I said, it's not normally this unstable if you use the correct size, but to do this weave, we're using a ring that's slightly larger. So again, just keep repeating that until you get the length that you require. And then to finish off the weave, because once you get to the end, you're going to have this ring hanging over here. Now you can either just completely remove that ring or just take up a new ring. And this time we're going to skip popping on our pre-closed ring. So we're just going to come through the back of that last ring, through the front of the one before it, and we're going to close that up. And that's how we finish off half Persian 3 in 1. Now I like to take up another twist tie and feed it through there. It's not 100% necessary, but I just like to do it. It keeps the weave in place. Because these ring sizes are larger than ideal, I like to just keep them a little bit snug in place. So this is half Persian 3 in 1 left leaning. We can see it's left leaning because when you look at these eyes here where all our rings are interlocking, they are leaning to the left. If it was right leaning, they'd be leaning the other way. So this is normally considered the correct side of half Persian 3 in 1, and it's got a bit of a convex effect to it. The other side is more concave, and that's usually considered the wrong side or the back side of half Persian 3 in 1. And that's actually the side that we want to start doing our next step. So just whip that up, guys, to the length that you need it to be, and I'll meet you back here to show you what we're going to do next. Okay, so it's now time to start adding our smaller rings. And as I said, we're going to do that on the concave side, the side that gives a little bit of a trench. And we're going to be placing our first small ring around this eye here. So we've got this eye here where all these rings are overlapping each other, and we're going to place our first ring through these 2 rings here. Okay, so just this ring here and this ring here, so that it goes around this eye. Okay, so to place this ring, we're just going to go around these 2 rings that are facing us. We're not going to touch these rings here at the back. Okay, we're going through these 2 rings here. So straight through that second ring and then swing it around and pick up our first ring. Okay, so you can see that we've just gone through those 2 rings. We haven't gone through 4. All right, and we're going to close that up. Okay, and our work looks like that. And we need to repeat the same down here on the other edge. So again, just going through those 2 inner rings, okay, not picking up that side of them, just on the inside, closing that up. So this is what your work should look like now. So we've got those 2 rings in place. Our next small ring, we're going to go through those 2 rings that we just placed. Okay, so just pick up both of those small rings, just the small rings, and close it up. Okay, so your work should look like this. And then we're going to take up another small ring. Now this one, again, we're going to go around the next eye. Okay, so just as we did before, we go through those 2 large rings to go around the next eye, but this time, before we close that ring up, we're also going to pick up that small ring there in the middle that we just placed. Okay, close that up. And your work should look like this. And we need to repeat that down on the bottom edge. So again, taking an open small ring, we're going to go through those 2 large rings like we did previously. And then before we close, we're going to pop up through the middle of the small one that's there in the center. And we're going to close that up. Okay. Then we need to add another small ring to those so that we've got another ring in the center. So we just do that by going straight through them, just like that. Close it up. And then we want to place the next 2 rings here around the next eye, remembering to pick up that center ring this time as well. So open a ring, go through your 2 large rings, okay, just like that. And then before closing, pop up through the small ring in the center. Okay, so there's one side done. We need to do the other edge. Again, just popping down, picking up those big rings, and then sliding into the small ring before we close it up. And that's pretty much it, guys. That is the Cylon Weave. So you just keep doing that all the way down the length of your bracelet, or whatever it is that you're making, until you get to the end. To place the side rings again, we pick up those 2 large rings, pick up the center ring, close it up, and then repeat on the other edge. And that's it, guys. You've done Cylon Weave. Alright guys, well that's it. That is the video tutorial for today. I hope you enjoyed it and it was of benefit to you. Don't forget, if you did enjoy the video, to give it a thumbs up here on YouTube. Share the video if you like. While you're here, check out some of our other tutorials. There's plenty here for you to look through. If you're not a subscriber already, it'd be great if you could, so think about doing that for us. And last but not least, guys, don't forget to give a little bit of love and affection to our shop link up there in the corner. That's where we sell all the bits and bobs and you-know-whats that it will enable you to do this weave and many others. All right, guys, thanks once again for popping in. I hope you're all taking really good care of yourself, and I'll see you again sometime in the very near future. Bye.